Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's SIG Autoscaling weekly discussion. SIG Autoscaling is part of Kubernetes and the CNCF, and we abide by the CNCF Code of Conduct. So thanks in advance, everyone, for being respectful and inclusive. Without further ado, looks like we have one item on the stack here from Mike. I'll go ahead and maybe cut and paste down into the dated section here.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. I mean, honestly, this is like a continuation of discussion that you and Kuba and myself have been having. So, like, I totally get what you guys are saying about, the unscheduled field here. And I guess just to bring everyone up to speed, there is a component of the cluster autoscaler that when it is making node templates, it will attempt to sanitize some of the information there. And so as part of this bug that I've been looking at, or this behavior really, I had proposed a change that during the sanitization process, we should clear the unschedulable bit. Otherwise, it's possible that a user would have set, like something would have set the nodes as unschedulable, and we'll never produce a node template that would not have that set then. But as kind of Kuba pointed out in the discussion we've been having in the PR, there's no guarantee then that new nodes wouldn't come up with the unschedulable bit set true, and this would just cause the autoscaler to continue to make like nodes that can't do anything with. So I think like where we got into in the discussion is it sounded like maybe we could put a flag in that would allow us to enable this behavior. Um, that if we're concerned about it, like that does seem like one way around it, but it's one more kind of weird flag that we have to add to the
Yes.
cluster autoscaler then.
Yeah. Like for what it's worth, I think adding this one would be less sort of overhead and cost than just a general new flag, because like conceptually to me, this one would be a part of the taint config. So like we could plumb it in the taint config structure, and so that all of the like data is being pushed here anyway. We're just adding one more field to it. So yeah, I totally get the point about adding one more flag and adding yet another configuration option. But so like this is not an issue for GKE because we implement template node info. I'm like worried about breaking backwards compatibility for all of the crowd providers that don't. To
Right.
be honest, like I personally think that the scenario where you have all of the nodes unschedulable in a node group, I can't find a good scenario where a node would come up with also the bit set. Like it seems like what you are proposing is like would be the most common behavior, that like the new node doesn't have this field set. But unfortunately, like we've been operating on the opposite assumption so far, and now if we change it without any config option, we could break somebody. I'm not sure if I'm not overly cautious here, so I'm also happy to discuss.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. What you're saying makes total sense to me. It could end up breaking someone. And honestly, I was a little surprised to see this behavior. But yeah, like what's happening is, we have a user and part of their upgrade process, what they like to do is they like to use the cluster autoscaler to help with the upgrade. And so they have a node group and they say, we're going to upgrade this node group. And in order to do that, we have automation that will mark every node as unschedulable and put a special taint on them, right? And then they want to start evicting the workloads from those nodes. And the autoscaler will see them as pending and then create new nodes for it. Now this is part of the reason why I got into all these bugs is because this behavior is stressing the autoscaler in some ways that like probably we weren't expecting. So I can go back, I'll put a flag in, and I like what you're saying about using the taint config to pass it through because that makes it easy to bring the option in. So why don't I do this? I'll redo the patch with a flag in place, and then we can look at it again and see how it looks. And that'll work
Yeah,
for
I
us.
think with that in place, there's no other concerns. Like the patch looks
Yeah.
good otherwise.
Okay, cool. I'll work that up today then, and yeah, I'll put it. I'll repost it. I appreciate the discussion here, Jack and Kuba. Like, thank you.
Yeah, just to be clear for folks who haven't been paying attention to this for the past couple of weeks, the area of the code that I'm highlighting here is only operable in this conversation as a sort of last resort during the initial node templating when it's trying to pick a real node to create a template off of. The only way this is going to actually affect folks is, as like Kuba and Mike have been suggesting, if every single node in a particular pool is unschedulable. If you have a pool with a bunch of unschedulable nodes, but one ready schedulable node, then it will pick that node. It will prefer that node first of all. So it is a somewhat rare circumstance that's only going to
Yeah, and then if that's not available, and if template node info is implemented in your cloud provider, it will also prefer that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
only then does it actually fall back to this.
And interestingly enough, that's where we're running into this, right? Like in Cluster API, implementing the template node info, we have it as an optional contract for Cluster API providers. And like Cluster Autoscaler has its own providers, but when we're using Cluster API, there's like another layer of providers as well. So this is like information going through two layers of abstraction, basically. So we run into situations where the scale from zero information isn't there, or there's no way to provide a template. And so this can happen to us, occasionally.
Yeah. By the way, like one more last comment on this, because like this only breaks because they're tainting literally every node in the node group. Like this behavior of tainting and making nodes unschedulable via cardooning is, I think, common, but people do it in batches. So like even if it was like, a batch of a size half of the group in two passes, that would I think that's why we haven't bumped into this before, because this is a very particular setup.
Right. And I want to be as sensitive as possible to my users' needs. Like this is the
Yeah.
way they've chosen to operate it. And so we're trying to figure out, is there a bug in here now, or how do we fix this? So yeah, like I tend to agree with you. I think I've done some demonstrations recently to show how like batching these things out can make the autoscaler behave a lot better. And if you just keep dumping, like pods and stuff, or if you just keep marking everything as unschedulable, and then it's like it's never going to schedule anything. So yeah, like it's an odd situation, but I appreciate all the attention and everything.
Okay, cool. Any other thoughts or anyone else?
I have one broadcast from Norbert who couldn't attend today. He has revised the granular resource limits proposal to remove the minimum part from it and only leave the max part, rename the API to like autoscaling resource quota. So it's ready for another round of review now.
Okay, great. Is that in the queue? I'll just highlight it so we can make a visual.
No, it's a doc linked from the agenda. You were there a minute ago. It's like previous week. Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, previous week. Cool. All right. So I will, here's the visual. Also, I'll actually move this up here so that it's
Thank you.
in today's discussion. Well,
yeah, so basically Norbert went with the alternative API mentioned there, the autoscaling resource quota, and this is now rewritten into this. There's like
okay, so
one
I'll
more
just say,
point there about future proofing for DRA, but other than that, I think the API is complete.
all right. Anyone have any items to bring up ad hoc? Now's the chance. Okay. If you have continental weather, I hope you're enjoying your autumn season. It's beautiful here in Portland. See folks online. See you next week.
Thanks, Jack.
Bye.
Yeah.